Hey guys, welcome back. It's time to talk about the ever so exciting concept of consensus algorithms. And I know a lot of people probably hear that and they're like, oh my gosh, what the heck is this about? And I know it's probably going to be kind of complicated, but I'm trying to break it down as simple as I can for this video to put it into context for you. And the best way I was able to do that is to relate consensus algorithms, consensus mechanisms to like the inner mechanical workings of a car. And yeah, it does take more technical knowledge to understand that kind of thing. I mean, whether you're a mechanic or a computer programmer. But at the same time, it's really important because at the end of the day, those inner mechanics are what governs the system and the running of that car, that vehicle, or in this case, that blockchain or that currency. And those are the mechanisms, the consensus protocols are the mechanisms in place that help give you an idea of the relative security and efficiency of a given blockchain. And a lot of times the word consensus is referred to in the news when it comes to blockchain in regards to a fork, like a hard fork or a soft fork happening in the network. And although that's accurate, the word consensus goes much deeper than that, but it goes a lot further than that because consensus is actually what's happening on a daily basis within a given blockchain. Consensus algorithms are the agreements of all the different nodes in the network coming together to agree on or form consensus on, literally, the rules that are going to be running the network, the mechanics that are going to be running the network. But instead of doing it in a tangible way with machine parts, you're doing it in a relatively intangible way with software rules, with like network rules run off of software instead of hardware, obviously. And just like with a car, you would much rather have a blockchain, like the inner mechanics of a blockchain, that's built to run a lot more like a Mercedes Gullwing rather than a Pontiac Fiero. They're not made equally, that's for sure. And there's a lot of different types of inner mechanics consensus protocols of a blockchain. Like as blockchain and cryptocurrency is evolving as a market and an industry and a technology, so are the inner mechanical workings, the consensus algorithms, the choreography, if you will, of how that network is running. And right now, Bitcoin specifically is run on what's called a proof of work consensus protocol. And I will right now give you a document that goes into more detail on that. Go ahead to my cryptkeepers.club website. Again, that's .club, like like it's, yeah, not .com. Anyways, go to cryptkeepers.club and then go over to Keeper by Coin. Select Bitcoin. There it goes. As it loads, go ahead and scroll down till you see the section on the consensus protocol. Here's the document I am referring to, and it does a really quick little synopsis of it right here. And then if you want to, quote, get gritty on the technical knowledge, that's where all of this fun stuff comes in. And there's very well-defined terms. There's a link at the bottom to a YouTube video that was really helpful when I socked myself in to my room for the weekend and trying to figure out what the heck consensus protocols, specifically proof of work, was all about. Although I've definitely gone through Bitcoin's proof of work consensus protocol in great detail, I have yet to go through with a very fine-tooth comb and like dissect and dive into the inner workings, the inner mechanics of the other different types of consensus protocols. And as I go through each of the other cryptocurrencies and I'm evaluating them through all the criteria, I will also be at that point diving in a lot further into each consensus protocol. So then you'll get to learn more about, oh my gosh, there's so many. There's like proof of stake, which is where Ethereum's headed. There's proof of burn, proof of capacity, proof of elapsed time. Like it just like with any other piece of technology, it feels like even the mechanisms that are running it and the algorithms that are running it are evolving at an exponential rate, which is exciting, but it's a lot to keep up with. And just like with a car's mechanics, it takes a lot more technical knowledge, especially if you don't have a solid computer science background to understand it. But there again, I think it's so important if there's going to be so much hype in this market and so much money flooding into this market, it's wise to understand what is working behind what you're investing in and what you're making money on and what you're going through all this psychological frenzy on. Like, you want to understand it. It reminds me a lot of when the housing boom was happening and all these people were signing mortgages that they didn't understand, and then look who's holding the bill at the end of the day. There's all these defaults happening. Like, I don't want that to happen in this market, which is why I think educating yourself on something that you're going to get so excited about and invest so much hard-earned money in is probably a good idea. Whew. Anyways, so in terms of the grade that I gave this, I can also pan to that right now. So you go to where we were at with the consensus protocol document, and you just scroll up, scroll up, scroll up, till you get back to the Bitcoin evaluation section, and boom, there it is, consensus protocol, proof of work, specifically SHA-256, which is discussed further in that document I was referencing. And here is the reason for the grade, but I will explain that a little bit more in detail on the video again. So in terms of the grade that I decided to give Bitcoin's consensus protocol, specifically Bitcoin's proof of work, I gave it a B. And the reason I gave it a B, well, there's a lot of reasons, but the first thing that comes to mind that kind of hindered it a bit was the fact that there's all these forks constantly happening in the network, which in my opinion kind of eat away at the integrity of the network a bit. That's kind of the negative side of the forks that happen. But on the positive side of the forks that are happening, at least there's a lot of emphasis from the core team and from the participants and the nodes to actually come together and try and keep proof of work evolving. Because it doesn't look like they're going to be fundamentally changing the fact that Bitcoin runs off of proof of work, but they are trying to change some of the rules and like little inner mechanics within it. It's just like taking a vehicle and instead of replacing the entire engine, maybe they just do some updates on cylinders or valves or that type of thing. And there's the other thing is there's a lot of other consensus protocols that have come about related to different cryptocurrencies. Like I listed the proof of stake, proof of burn, proof of capacity, blah, 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 right? There are so many other ones that have come out that are designed to be more secure in a lot of ways, more efficient in a lot of ways, more effective in a lot of ways. But the fact that, and that would kind of give Bitcoin a lower grade, but the fact that Bitcoin has been around from the beginning, it was the pioneer of its time. It was like Henry Ford's Model T of its time, and it had a chance to therefore become not only a pioneer with the technology, but a front runner in the marketplace. That lead advantage also helped it become a lot more secure, because the Bitcoin blockchain was so much more evolved by the time it hit mainstream excitement and therefore target for hackers. It was a lot less like Bitcoin is a lot less likely to undergo a 51% attack, because it would take so much, like a absolutely prohibitive amount of energy and computing power to duplicate the blockchain enough to do a 51% attack. So that alone, like even though proof of work is a little bit like old news now in terms of the techie side of this industry, it still has its advantages. The fact that it's old news means it had a longer time to establish itself in a more robust way to make it less likely for hackers to be able to attack the Bitcoin network, which is awesome. All these factors considered, I gave it a B, because it's not like, oh, a resounding A, it's doing the best. Like, no, other things are evolving and kind of passing it on the technology front in terms of security, effectiveness, and efficiencies. But at the same time, like, the fact that it was the first one, the Henry Ford, the Model T, I mean, you can't discredit that. You really can't. Like, we have Tesla now, which just totally, like, it's on Ford, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like, you always have to, Ford's still around and still doing well. Like, it sunk its teeth into the game early. And I have a feeling Bitcoin might be able to be somewhat synonymous in that way as we progress. So anyways, that is the very simplified version of what consensus protocols, especially in regards to Bitcoin and proof of work, are all about. Again, I'll keep going through more of them as I go through and dissect each cryptocurrency's different aspects. But for now, I hope that was helpful. And I highly suggest, if you do want to take the initiative and learn more about what is running the money that you're making right now, the returns that you're making right now, check out that document. Go above and beyond that. I mean, if you want to know even more, like, read it over a couple times, visualize what's happening, and if you're still missing some things, do more research. One of the main sources of information that I used for that document was a YouTube video done by Andreas Antonopoulos, who has proven himself pretty well to be a nice, grounded, very tech-savvy voice within the blockchain, specifically Bitcoin industry. So I highly recommend checking out that YouTube video if you want to know even more. And yeah, just do your research. Like, don't be the one that's taking out a mortgage that they don't understand. You know? You feel me? Okay, good. So on that note, like, subscribe, do all those YouTube world things that help keep us all connected, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.